This is a Heritage H150 custom shop. And out of all of the single cut style guitars in the room that I've been testing for this experiment, this is the only one that I found that can beat a Gibson Les Paul on its own terms. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. Most of the guitars around me are fantastic, and they all get great variations of the Les Paul tone, but none of them actually feel like a traditional 50 Les Paul. The VGA has a thin neck, thin body, stainless steel frets. It feels super modern. Similar things can be said about the ESP guitar. They're fantastic, modern feeling guitars. But this Heritage guitar feels like you took a 50s Les Paul and just fixed a few issues and refined it and gave it great QC. It's not a modernized 50s single cut, it's a perfected 50s single cut. So on this episode of the Les Paul Experiment, we're going to discuss how Heritage makes the best traditional single cut and does it for less money than Gibson. Honestly, they're pretty much the company that Gibson should have become. Quick history lesson here. Heritage Guitars was founded in 1985 by a small group of former Gibson employees after Gibson moved production from Kalamazoo to Nashville. Instead of following the company, these guys stayed behind and kept building guitars in the original Gibson factory at 225 Pearson Street, the same place where all the iconic Gibsons were made for decades. They used the same tools, the same technologies, the same materials, and carried over that old school craftsmanship. You can definitely see the Gibson influence in their designs, but Heritage always added their own flavor, slightly different headstock shapes, unique finishes, and a more boutique small shop vibe. And something that really excites me is the fact that Heritage is making a bunch of archtop jazz guitars that Gibson no longer makes. So if you want a jazz guitar experiment, let me know in the comments below. Every time I make one of these videos, people always ask me where I get stuff like this from, this prop thing. It's always linked below, so check that out if you need it. Now, when we look at the headstock of the Heritage, this is honestly the only area that may deter some traditionalists. The headstock shape is obviously very different for legal reasons, and they also went with modern tuners. To be completely honest, the one thing I wish this guitar had was the traditional tuners. I just kind of fell in love with how they look on a single cut guitar. Of course, these tuners work perfectly, and whether or not you like the way they or the headstock looks, that's going to be totally subjective, so we won't dwell on it. But it's painted black like traditional Gibsons are, we have wood on the back like traditional Gibsons are, and yeah. But as we move to the neck, this is the thing that sets the Heritage apart from every other guitar in this room. The thing that I really love about the 50s Les Paul is the big, fat, baseball style chunky neck. You don't find this style of neck on many modern guitars. It's the only guitar in this room besides the Gibson that has this style of big chunky neck. So for everyone who really loves that traditional feeling 50s shape, you really can't get anything besides the Gibson or the Heritage, at least in my testing. And another big similarity that I don't see any other company doing is the frets. These frets are a little bit smaller, they're not very tall, almost flat on the top, and that's exactly how they are on my Gibson guitar. And we also have the binding that wraps around the edges, just like on a traditional Gibson. So to be completely honest, when I hold this guitar in my hands, if I was blindfolded, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you if it was a 50s Les Paul or a Heritage H150. And that's a great thing because no other company gets this right, at least, again, in my testing so far. Now, it's possible that I just got lucky. I haven't owned any other Gibsons for extended periods of time besides this Les Paul back here. This one has really good QC, all things considered. It has a couple of jagged edges here and there, and it has only one dead fret. Actually, now that I say that out loud, a guitar that's about $3,000 shouldn't have any dead frets. But considering it's a Gibson, that's really good, I guess. When I compare it to the Heritage guitar, the frets on this one are literally perfect. They are perfectly level. There's not one dead spot or one dead note anywhere on the neck at all. Interestingly enough, after getting this guitar and playing it for a little while, I did watch a few reviews and I saw that a few other people didn't like these frets because again, they don't feel like modern medium jumbo or jumbo style frets. And I understand why someone might not like the way they feel. However, if you are looking for a 50s style Les Paul, if you're looking for something that feels like a traditional Gibson, these are the exact frets. So it actually makes sense that they come on this particular guitar. And again, if you're looking for that vintage feel, it's really difficult to find these frets anywhere else on a brand new guitar. And if we continue that QC discussion, when I look at the binding around the neck or around the body, there's literally not a single flaw anywhere on this guitar. That's pretty much the consensus online as well. Heritage tends to have amazing quality control. Gibson tends to have okay at best quality control. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, definitely subscribe to the free Lifelong Guitarist Newsletter link below. It's an article and video podcast that gets sent to your inbox every Saturday morning, totally free. We discuss everything from the philosophy of playing guitar to gear to all types of other stuff. It's linked below if you're interested. Now, as we move to the body, this is going to seem very familiar to you. It's a thick piece of mahogany with a maple cap. There's no belly cut. There's no weight relief, there's no forearm bevel apart from the natural violin carve on the instrument. If you want a traditional single cut, this is how they were made and this is how they feel. Again, this makes a lot of sense. And luckily, this one is actually not heavy. My Gibson is also not very heavy, but this one might be slightly lighter. I'll weigh them both and put it on screen right now. Something else that I noticed when looking at the reviews for this guitar, everyone seems to really love the dirty lemon burst finish. And I have to admit, on camera, it is extremely striking. It's gorgeous. But because I'm a contrarian, I felt like I couldn't get the same color that everyone else did. So I went with this vintage tobacco burst instead. And luckily for me, it is equally gorgeous. You can see that the flame on the top is stunning. I also really like the cherry burst finish, but to be honest, I don't feel like I have enough mojo to rock a guitar that has any red on it. This one, I think, fits my personality a bit more. It's a little bit more understated, a little bit more wood colored, and as you can see, the top is gorgeous. Another slight difference we have with Heritage guitars is their pickguard matches the angle of the body itself, and I think this looks better than the traditional Gibson style pickguards. That's totally a subjective aesthetic choice, so let me know in the comments which one you like more. Again, I like the Heritage more. Don't worry, this little thing up here is just a sticker. You don't have to worry about a giant Heritage logo being on the front of your pickguard at all times. Then of course, it's a single cut. So we have dual humbuckers, 3-way switch, and we have independent volume and tone knobs for each of the pickups. Now, I went back and forth a lot between the Heritage and the Gibson Les Paul. These are both 50s style single cut guitars. The Heritage pickups are a little bit less hot than the Gibson pickups. I honestly prefer having a lower output humbucker because in my experience, I can always put a boost pedal in front of a guitar to make it sound hotter. But if I start with hotter pickups and I try to reduce the input volume, it doesn't sound as good. Both set of pickups sound really, really great. And if you want a slightly hotter version of this guitar, they make a modern version that have hotter output pickups. But the main thing I want to convey here is if you're worried that you're not going to get the Gibson mojo in your pickups, trust me, this guitar sounds like you would want a single cut guitar to sound. And I definitely don't feel the need to go out and swap these with Gibson pickups. They sound great the way they are. And again, although the Gibson sounds fantastic, I do prefer these. So these pickups are really, really awesome, but I gotta be honest, the thing that I really love about the sound of this guitar is the neck pickup. The neck pickup gives me everything I ever wanted in a jazzy tone and a bluesy tone. Now, I know you're going to get mad at me if I don't show you every pickup, so this is what every pickup sounds like very quickly. And now here's what you're supposed to do with a bridge pickup on a single cut guitar. But now that we got through all of that, I really want to show you how beautiful the jazz tones and the bluesy tones are on this particular guitar. So I'm going to start by playing something that gives us the entire sound of the neck. So we're going to start way low and get way up high with some chords. And you're going to see it has this really nice balanced tone. and it's not too muddy, but it's still nice and round. And now when we listen to the individual notes, you're gonna hear that it has this super sweet tone. I keep saying the word sweet because that's the way I best describe this. It has this super sweet, delicate neck pickup tone that I absolutely love. So now let's discuss price, because this is another area that Heritage shines. The least expensive 50s style Gibson Les Paul you could purchase is $2,599 with a solid color top, or $2,799 if you want a flame top or a gold top. You should also factor in that a Gibson is probably not going to come out of the box perfect. Mine has one dead fret, and also the nut needs to be cut slightly different so that the G and D strings stay in tune, and they never come cut properly out of the factory. For $2,599, the same price as the solid painted colored 50s Gibson style Les Paul, you can get a Heritage H150 standard that has a flame top. And anyone who's tried both brands will tell you that the QC on the Heritage is going to be far superior. And then as you get either more expensive or less expensive, the price difference is actually even greater. This custom shop H150 is $4,100, and it's meant to compete with the Gibson custom shop, which starts at around $6,000 or $7,000. And then if we go in the opposite direction and get less expensive, the Epiphone 50s style guitars range from $700 to $1,300, and they are really bad. Horrifically bad guitars for the price. The Heritage Ascent Plus, the less expensive version of this style of guitar, is $700, and it is absolutely fantastic. And if you're interested in checking out one of those more affordable guitars, definitely watch one of these videos next. So as a quick summary here, this guitar has the same neck, the same frets, and the same feel as a traditional Gibson 50 style Les Paul guitar. But it has better quality control, the fretwork is better, the tuning stability is better, and it's also less expensive. So as long as the headstock isn't a deal breaker for you, it's really hard to recommend that anyone buy a Gibson over a Heritage guitar.